What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Battle Central Europe Season 3, where we are in the lower bracket. mYinsanity is going up against Komanda minus at least as many mYinsanity heroes as you see on the screen right now. HeflaTV Hitbox 1 is going to bring you this only best of 3 of the day. I'm Mike Loris, got Grandis here as well, and, well, mYinsanity is looking pretty much in shambles already.
Yeah, they really are. I'm not sure exactly what's happening behind the scenes, but running with a lot of stand-ins, at least today.
You're never in a good situation when more of your team is not there than there. So, I mean, mYinsanity, I would say most people would say, oh, easy mYinsanity. They'd be able to clean this up 2-0, but maybe when they had a full draft, but maybe they also don't know quite how Komanda minus like to roll. We see a Phoenix banned out, and that is extremely upsetting to me.
Yeah, I think that's the hero that was added in this last patch that I'm most excited to see. I don't know, it's going to be a fun hero to watch at least pros use it. I don't know, he just seems to be a really strong offlaner and can get a lot out of some lanes that he really shouldn't have, and I think he definitely deserves a place in this meta. I'm not sure if that is in the first ban slot or in the first pick slot, but we'll just have to see how it evolves from here. As for the first couple of days of this patch, I expect him to be pretty much banned out.
And when he is picked, it's probably going to be extremely chaotic. Like, teams are going to be putting him as support, solo mid, all these things. Pretty much exactly the same thing that we saw with Legion Commander, where people experimented with her a hell of a lot, and I think we've ultimately landed on Legion Commander solo mid is probably the best.
As far as lanes for Phoenix, I think that offlane's better, but, well, this game's already... Oh, for Legion? Yeah, I think solo mid's my favorite lane for her. Yeah, and we'll just have to see where Phoenix is going to settle down. As for this game, the early picks and bans have already come out from either side. mYinsanity will pick up a first pick Ogre Magi, and then Komanda minus will just slam pick the Visage Drow.
We saw this in the upper bracket when Komanda minus were previously playing. They had their Drow banned out from them every single game, so this is a little bit more of them in their comfort zone. And mYinsanity getting this intelligence rather early. Normally Drows and Visages aren't picked up until much later in the game, but Komanda minus, they want their combo, and they're going to get it.
Yeah, they are. It is going to show their cards very early on in the draft, but Drow Ranger Visage, even if you have enemy heroes that are really good at catching out, like Stormy Spirit, Centaur, things like that come to mind, they're able to get up in the face of Drow and focus her down. The Visage generally is the one that's doing most of the damage. A Drow Ranger can kind of just split push across the map and get that aura going for the rest of her team. So I think it's definitely punishable coming out from Komanda minus, but there's always ways that they can salvage the situation and just rely on a split pushing game.
And because Phoenix and Legion Commander took rather early bans, this is going to mean that the two heroes of Viper and Razor are still in the pool, who are personally my favorite partners with the Drow, just because they are so inherently tanky, yet they also could deal a lot of damage because they're ranged. And as far as heroes that do that, there aren't that many. Huskar, maybe? Hoping for that one, but I don't think Komanda minus are going to take that. mYinsanity, they're going to go for Faceless Void, though. So they do have, at the very least, one hero now who can close gaps and try to put some pressure on the Drow from melee range.
Yeah, and it's going to be a pretty nice tool for them. If they catch Drow Ranger inside the Chronosphere, focusing down is really easy once you get up into her face, especially when she doesn't have Gust available. But then again, if they get the jump on the Faceless Void with a Gust and any further lockdown coming out from their other support or some other cores, that could be very problematic for mYinsanity. Razor's going to slip through to the pool, and I think that's what Komanda minus are going to pick up. I don't think there's really anything better left.
They probably would go for Razor. I would say anyone, if you are in the scenario, would go for a Razor just because it is such a powerful hero. But I'm personally holding out for a TA. Kikoni's last TA was not indicative of what I've seen, so I kind of wanted to see it just so you could see the truth and so you could see that I'm not just lying to you.
If they don't go for either of those heroes and instead want to pick up their offlaner, Tidehunter, I think, is probably the best one in the pool. Even though he's not going to get the range bonus from Drow, he's going to give them a nice frontliner that should be able to get a decent amount out of the lane, and just having a Ravage to disrupt the team fight coming out from mYinsanity will be really nice to make space for the Drow Ranger.
In best case scenario, you have your Tidehunter going up against both the Faceless Void and Ogre Magi in lane, in which case Anchor Smash is going to be king, just because, well, you're not going to be taking that much damage once you smash him. So yeah, generally it is preferable for a Drow Ranger team to have one person who's on that front line. Without that, you could still do okay, but it requires a lot more kiting, and it gets a lot more difficult.
Definitely. Well, let's see what Komanda Minus have in mind. Right now, we're still waiting on their choice, and this is going to show what they have in mind. As far as supports are concerned, Bane was not the one that I had off the top of my head, but this is going to set up nicely for a Mirana pick, and that's going to give them a very scary tri lane, and Drones is probably going to take up the mid.
Yeah, I wouldn't really be surprised to see that. If you pick up a Bane with just a Drow Ranger Visage on your team, like, it's not like Gust into after Nightmare is really a thing. Like, it works, but you don't really want to be setting up for that. So yeah, I expect it to be someone like a Mirana, as I mean, just another range hero to take the damage. And of course, Komanda Minus have 3 range heroes, whereas mYinsanity, well, now they only have 1. So it looks like mYinsanity are not really too concerned with this Drow Ranger. They're drafting pretty normally around the Faceless Void Chronosphere.
Yeah, and I think that's an okay choice for them, but it's still really scary. I don't know, Komanda Minus are getting whatever they want. I think this is kind of just a really easy Mirana pick for them, although they go for the Bane, and although he's a nice hero up against Faceless Void, I kind of would have preferred the Shadow Demon here. But either way, let's see how they're going to utilize it. Maybe it's not the Mirana after all. They're taking their time with this next pick.
Maybe they just want the Bane for the early game Enfeeble, make sure Faceless Void is a non-factor when he's hitting things like in Chronosphere, and of course, you know, in lane when he's going to be hitting like for 15 damage a pop. That could be a thing, and maybe it is going to just be a Nightmare into Gust setup after all. I guess you have a million years to get behind the enemy and then gust them towards your allies, if that's how they want to run that. But they're instead going to go for a Puck for now, and maybe wait to see what mYinsanity have, and then maybe pick up Mirana, maybe not.
Yeah. For mYinsanity, it seems that they're still missing a handful of cores, and the Razor wouldn't be a bad option for them. We'll just have to see what they have in mind. Drow Ranger, at this moment, only has the Chronosphere really to worry about, and getting another initiating tool for themselves would also be nice. I think the Tidehunter, even though he's been ignored up until now, would just give them a lot of nice utility and wouldn't make them rely so heavily on the Chronosphere and the Faceless Void.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing better than Teamfight is more Teamfight, right? So Chronosphere and Ravage, especially up against the full range lineup of Komanda Minus, something as huge as Ravage is, well, first of all, a little bit more difficult to hit because everyone is so much further away from each other. But, I mean, these heroes are all extremely fragile, so it's not going to be a Ravage, it's going to be a Gyrocopter. But when you're talking about large amounts of damage and a large AoE, Gyrocopter is pretty much on the top of that chart. So Komanda Minus, the Bane gets a little bit better here, but aside from that, the AoE of Gyrocopter is going to be absolutely backbreaking.
Yeah, especially if you are able to get the Flak Cannon inside the Chronosphere. It's a lot of physical damage, and Komanda Minus, they are a fairly squishy lineup, and honestly, for mYinsanity, I'd love to see them go for like a Nyx Assassin last, just to burst down all of these heroes and to hunt them throughout the map, and I think that might be a decent choice for them. Maybe they have something else in mind and want to commit more towards a team fight rather than their pick-off potential, but I think that would be a decent option.
Yeah, I mean, for mYinsanity, they still have yet to pick up a true Drow Ranger counter. Normally we see heroes like Phantom Assassin or Slark get through, and usually they're the ones who are tasked with the, they're tasked with dealing with the Drow Ranger, and it usually works pretty decently. It's still possible if they want to go for one of those heroes. Slark would not be the worst hero here for mYinsanity. Komanda Minus do have a couple of tools of dealing with that Slark, with Blink Silences of Puck and Gust, which is a pretty long silence range, but aside from that, I'm liking the Slark here for mYinsanity, just to go on the hunt.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He kind of functions into a similar fashion as an Assassin. I would have liked to see just more lockdown from it, and I don't know, neither of them really combo well with the Chronosphere, but it is going to be a last pick Mirana for Komanda Minus. They don't have a very good front line at all. None of these heroes can really sit up and tank any amount of damage, but their pick-off potential and damage is through the roof.
Yeah, so it's going to be a game of, can we kill the enemies before they get close to us? And for most of the mYinsanity heroes, the answer will be yes. Faceless Void will have to be nightmared and or enfeebled, or just jumped upon first. Komanda Minus, their game pretty much revolves around being the ones to start the fights, just with random Puck blink-ins or arrows that are going to land. If they're on the defensive, then they really don't have a shot this game. But on the offensive, that's when they really want to get the ball rolling, and that's when their damage is going to fly through. But Ember Spirit, it's kind of similar to that Slark and kind of similar to that Nyx in that he can very quickly close distances.
Yeah, he doesn't have as much burst damage and is going to be benefiting more from the Chronosphere, so it is kind of a nice mix for them. mYinsanity are going to be pretty comfortable taking this late, if that's an option for them, and if Komanda Minus give them that room. But there is going to be a time where Joe Ranger gets up like level 11 and maxed out into the aura, one or two agility items on top of that, where Komanda Minus's damage is going to be a little bit too much for mYinsanity to deal with, and where they don't have all of the damage on their cores either. So I think that's the window that Komanda Minus really need to hit hard, about 25 minutes in.
Yeah, so we've seen Drow Rangers in the past go for very heavy into the Wraith Band builds, like 3 or 4 with Treads and Yasha. Do you think this is a good game for that, or do you think she's better off going for a little bit more of a slower build?
I would be okay with that, or just like the Power Treads Aquila into Sanj and Yasha, something along those lines. If Insolent is partial towards it, a Mask of Madness or Blink build could have also be in the future, but I think just a really stat-heavy aggressive build would be nice.
All right, well, we'll see what Insolent wants to go for, because he is playing the Drow Ranger. It's going to be Pure Evil on the Visage, and I think I might have to hold on to the rest of them, because mYinsanity, they are smoked up, and they're going to run into Pure Evil. Everyone's going to get their smoke dispelled at the same time. Not sure if that was because it ran out or because Pure Evil and Insolent blew it at the same time, but it looks like the Visage is actually going to get fogged a little bit. He knows what's happening, so I think he's going to be fine. Nothing should happen from this. Other heroes on the Komanda Minus side, we got Poison on the Bane, Hawkeye on the Mirana, and Kakoni's going to be playing the mid lane puck.
And on the Dire side, after that failed first blood attempt, they are going to be heading back towards their lanes. Bottom lane, it looks like they're leaving a tri-lane with Mitch farming on the Gyrocopter, Yes Peace on the Witch Doctor, Lizard on the Ogre Magi, mid Ember Spirit played by All Eyes on Me, and last but not least, Joey on the Faceless Void.
Right, as we said before, guys, mYinsanity not exactly running with their most standard of lineups, but I mean, this is a pretty nice aggressive tri-lane. Stun into flat cannon. Really doesn't matter who's packing those stuns. As long as you could land that combo, you're going to be golden. And, well, the Bane for right now is sitting up on the top lane, and for sure he will be able to provide the Mirana with lots of help. I don't know if Arrow after Nightmare has enough killing potential to straight up kill off a Faceless Void, though.
Yeah, I don't know. It really depends on if he's taken any harass beforehand. They would love to have a little bit more killing potential, and that little more killing potential is down in bottom with the Visage. This dual lane setup, I'm not sure if it's really going to favor Komanda Minus, because it just feels like Visage Drow up against this tri-lane mYinsanity are going to be able to do absolutely nothing.
I mean, maybe they expected it to be similar situations for mYinsanity, but I think when you have a Gyrocopter, Ogre Magi, Witch Doctor, you could reasonably assume that they're going to be going together in some fashion. Top lane, I am completely wrong, guys. I'm completely wrong, and I missed it. Nightmare into Arrow into Walkdown. Faceless Void, he picked Backtrack level 1. Well, when you do that, then you're certainly vulnerable to death.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really interesting choice by Faceless Void, and I assume the backtracks just didn't come out for him. Not the tankiest of heroes early on. And without that repositioning tool, long enough arrow, I suppose it was enough, unless you get really godly backtrack luck. So, there's your first blood. Ember Spirit in mid is not getting destroyed in the CS department, but Kakoni is putting a lot of pressure onto him in this middle lane and keeping up decently in the farm on top of it. But this mid lane is more or less a wash. I expect these off lanes to be where most of the action is isolated. If an arrow lands in the Faceless Void again, he might die if they catch him before his level 2, and even then, if he doesn't get the backtracks. And bottom lane, if Insolent or Pure Evil get a little too close, get caught up by the Paralyzing Cask, especially both of them, they're going to be completely hosed. There's a missile coming through, not destroyed by the creeps just yet, but Joe Ranger's going to be able to do that one in, and now, with a Paralyzing Cask, Insolent's going to survive, and ESPs is going to be forced back.
Insolent's only level 1 right now, whereas Mitch is already at the level 2 mark. In fact, I think all of the mYinsanity support heroes, no, the Ogre isn't, but they're getting their levels up as Drow Ranger's being zoned out pretty heavily. That being said, she has gone for her aura at the first level, so that additional 5 damage doesn't sound like a lot, but certainly is going to be very useful for Kakoni when he's dealing with the Ember Spirit, and it helped them quite a bit when killing off the Faceless Void as well, going through a poor man's shield. So Drow Ranger already starting off with the early contributions, and looks like they are going to rotate out the Bane from top lane just to make a full-on tri-lane for Komanda Minus, and it's still probably weaker than mYinsanity's, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. The Bane down here doesn't really offer much killing potential, but they'll be able to pretty consistently destroy the missile. And Defensive Nightmares could help protect the Drow Rangers, so it is probably necessary. After the first blood happened up top, Hawkeye is going to be able to completely dominate this lane. Currently 2 levels ahead of the Faceless Void, although he does take his level 3 now. There's not much that he can do. With the extra damage on Hawkeye and eventually the phase boots, he's going to be consistently zoned.
Yeah, and the Faceless Void already went for a very defensive build. Going for 1-point backtrack this early is very, very rare to see. So, I mean, it's going to be one fewer point in the bash or the time walk that mYinsanity has to worry about. And I'm assuming they saw a couple backtracks from Joey by now, so they should know the build of Faceless Void, more or less. And, well, Faceless Void is going to get tagged with an arrow just free-handed. Going to drop very low to the mYinsanity. This should be a better lane for Void, but the Bane just giving the mYinsanity the best possible start.
Yeah, and even canceling Joey's salve, he's going to be forced to use almost all of his tangos just to stay in this lane. An Invis rune by the Ember Spirit locks down Kikoni and does quite a bit of damage because the Flame Guard was activated during that Invis, but no kills are going to happen in the mid lane, kind of as to be expected. And now with the bottle flying out to puck, Kikoni is going to be just fine. In fact, is outlast hitting the Ember Spirit.
Bottom lane, they're going to get into a little bit of a skirmish. Yes, please, tagged with a whole bunch of slows. Soul Assumption not quite going to do it. Poison just needs one more hit with the arrow. Yes, it's going to be a kill for Jar Ranger. Now on to Lizard. They don't really have that many more slows, but level 2 Frost arrows against a bootless Ogre Magi should be enough to eventually walk him down. Pure Evil doesn't have any more mana, but it looks like it's not needed. That's going to be 2 kills for Komanda minus down on the bottom lane. That started out with mYinsanity on the aggressive, and they got the lower hand of that trade.
Yeah, Bane was isolated a little bit by the Gyrocopter, ate a lot of flat cannon damage, but the auto attacks just couldn't come out as Bane's a pretty darn fast hero, and Gyrocopter wasn't able to chase him down since they're exactly at the same amount of movement speed. So Poison's going to survive even Komanda minus with a 3-0 start. After looking at their lanes, I wouldn't expect this to be where the state of the game is, but right now Komanda minus have a pretty good lead.
Yeah, and their draft, as we said before, is one that does work very well when it's on the aggressive. When you're ahead like this, then it's a lot easier to call shots because you're doing so much damage. It's only +6 still, Insolent, not getting that many levels, but he is going for a hell of a lot of Wraith Bands. This Drow Ranger is hitting already very, very hard, and she's not even level 6. In fact, she's nowhere close to level 6, so this is a build that is kind of tailored to early game aggression, but it's especially tailored to fighting very early in a 3v3 scenario.
Yeah, and I quite like it because of it. It's going to be a good usage of the gold, one of the most cost-effective items you can go for any hero, and especially on a Drow. Getting a lot of extra damage, not only for you, but mid lane Puck's going to be hitting with +8, as is the mYinsanity, which is going to make up for their base damage, not deficiency, but it's going to help them dominate these top 2 lanes. The Faceless Void as well as the Ember Spirit are not going to have good times at all. 15-5 on Ember Spirit compared to 31-13 on the Puck, and mYinsanity, a pretty similar story there. Dream Coil in mid, going aggressively on All Eyes on Me, and the right clicks are almost enough by Kikoni. Now the chain's missing, All Eyes on Me is going to avoid dying, and Kikoni's going to be forced to bottle up after his courier comes back to him. But still, Puck didn't really commit that much. I'm not sure he really would have left the lane, so the Dream Coil cooldown's not going to be super significant.
Double damage on Ember Spirit, if nothing else, just scaring Kikoni into backing off. So Ember Spirit is going to get his levels up. He's already level 6, so him getting kills on Puck, certainly very possible at this point. In fact, he's already brought the Puck down to very low amounts of HP previously. It's just a matter of getting that final blow. He's instead going to go towards the top lane, it seems like. This is completely spotted by a Radiant Observer Ward, and Hawkeye is going to be just fine, or he should be just fine, unless All Eyes on Me really wants to go in on this one, which he really shouldn't. Myrana's going to be living on the top lane, and it's going to be Ember Spirit just wasting a little bit of time, but he couldn't really get that much done versus Kikoni anyway. Kikoni's working towards his Blink Dagger right now, and it looks like mYinsanity, these 2 supports on the bottom lane, they're making no attempt at leaving to go help anyone else.
Yeah, there's not really a pressing need for them to. Bottom lane, CS is favoring mYinsanity as they drop both of Ogre's spells into Insolent. He is going to be dropped a little bit by that Ignite, but nothing a Tango can fix, and more or less just mana spent by Lizard. Enfeeble onto Mitch, going to make it annoying for him to CS, but with Phase Boots it's definitely possible.
Alright, so Mitch is going to continue getting last hits as expected, but this type of aggression from Komanda Midas can suddenly surge forward at the drop of a hat. Like, a Grave Chill is really all they need. Of course, Nightmare or a random Frost Arrow even could do that as well, so these mYinsanity supports have to be a little bit cautious at how they spend their mana. Ogre Magi already running quite low, and well, the good thing is Witch Doctor has picked up mid. Yep.
Yeah, going to pursue Kikoni under tower, but All Eyes on Me is going to be turned around. That extra damage not enough, surviving with 2 HP. Kikoni just couldn't close the gap, and All Eyes on Me is going to survive just barely.
Man, high-low rolls sometimes just don't work out for you. If the Puck was a little bit luckier, I'm sure he would have gotten that kill, but instead he had to let that Faceless Void Ember Spirit rather, walk away. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate there. That could have changed like so easily if the Jar Ranger decided to go for 2 precision, 1 frost arrows. Like, so many minor things could have led to that kill.
Yeah. In the end, Ember Spirit barely skates away, but still a lot of time that he's going to be forced to spend back in base. But I suppose Puck's also zoned out. Puck is going to commit to the power treads, which I like this game more than most because of the bonus damage coming out from Dro, and now TPing down towards bottom. There's going to be a 4v4 Scuffle. It's going to open up onto the Visage on the sidelines. The chains keep Kekoni in place, but you lose her orb. They're bursting down Mitch as well as the Witch Doctor, and that's going to be both of them to fall after the Dream Coil connects. Lizard sets up Kekoni, and Insolent's able to continuously do the damage, but the Ember Spirit's chasing him with the Flame Guard. Even though he's enfeebled up, the damage might be enough. Lizard is going to be tagged by that Soul Assumption, now lose her orb to finish him off. All eyes on me, slowed down by the Grave Chill as well as by those Frost Arrows and Silence twice. Can't get away at all, and now Witch Doctor TP's in. He's probably going to TP into his death, and he will. Soul Assumption Brain Sap, he's gone.
Well, 8-0, I guess you pretty much can't have a better start than this. Kekoni's Coil certainly doing a hell of a lot more than Ember Spirit's arrival in that fight. I mean, the Ember Spirit was in a decent position. He was, leading the charge and everything like that, but he was also kind of off to the side, which meant that the rest of the mYinsanity heroes, if they wanted to help, had to go straight through the lane. And, well, everyone from Komanda Minus were waiting in that lane, so it was pretty much Ember Spirit doing what he should, but in the wrong place. So he ended up putting his own team in a Komanda Minus sandwich, and that sounds pretty good if you're a Komanda Minus fan, but mYinsanity have to be a lot more careful about where they want to start those fights. Up against a full 5 range team, they can very easily abuse slightly misplaced fights.
Definitely, and Insolent now, with that level 6, everybody's saying was plus 18 damage. He only has 1 point in Precision Aura. This is the most aggressive build you can go for Dro without, pretty much the most aggressive build you can go for Dro. It's very weird that we see Frost Arrows max. Usually you get that Aura as your first priority, but either way it's going to come out up in top. Chronosphere as Joey survives with very low HP after Hawkeye lands an arrow. Presumably they're now chained as well as ignited down. He is going to burn.
Man, and it could have been a lot different again if Gyro Rangers had 1 more Precision Aura instead of Frost Arrows. I don't really blame Insolent for going for this type of build given the circumstance and the 3v3 situation that he was in, but man, Precision Aura is pretty good, and I guess he's still getting some pretty heavy benefits out of it, but Poor Man's Shield value for the Faceless Void, Strength Treads as well, going to keep him alive, and well, Mirana's going to fail her first attempt at a solo kill, and honestly, she really shouldn't be going for, or she shouldn't be able to get solo kills versus Faceless Void anyway. The fact that she got that close is just a testament to the Gyro Ranger's damage.
Yeah, it really is. Right now, Ember Spirit looking for a wraparound in mid. He does have some remnants and a full mana pool in order to jump onto either Poison or Pure Evil if they get too close. But there's Puck backup. He is going to eat a lot of the Rocket Barrage damage. Brain Step as well as a Loser Orb. They're going to be able to burst down Mitch with the Waning Rift as well. Nightmare and All Eyes on Me can't do anything else in this engagement. And we'll probably just back off. Run Ultimate being spent for the Puck, presumably, as Kekoni should be able to make it out alive. That's having to Loser Orb if things got really scary. But there's no Dire Vision inside this river. In fact, 2 Radiant Sentry Wards.
Yeah, so they know exactly what's going on. Ember Spirit is going to get nightmared 1 more time. Arrow's going to fly through, and it looks like that and Coil are both going to land. All Eyes on Me is going to fall, with the stars falling as well. Witch Doctor is going to be the next to die. This damage from Komanda Minus is absolutely disgusting, especially displayed by how fast they killed that gyrocopter. That was just disturbingly fast.
It really is, and their burst from all of their heroes is very impressive, and it's well balanced between magic and physical damage. Everybody's hitting trucks, and then you have arrows, Starstorm, Illusory Orb, Waning Rift, Soul Assumptions flying, Brain Saps. There's just not much that mYinsanity can do to survive against that if they focus all of their spells into one target, and we just saw that on the Mitch. And I mean, Gyrocopter is not the highest of HP heroes to begin with, and that's showing very heavily. It's going to be a tower going the way of Komanda Minus, and they're getting pretty much everything that they could want. Sub 12-minute Blink Dagger on the Puck, going to be going bottom with that one. And that was a really nice combination by them as well. It's not just brute force, but the finesse of the combo, like the Dream Coil into Arrow, it's not something that you usually get to see, but they chain stunned him perfectly. So All Eyes on Me, not a chance to get any spell off.
And now Kekoni, he's going to be able to start fights on his own terms. Previously, the fights have been pretty much off of stray skills landing from the other 4 heroes of Komanda Minus. Now they have a, almost guaranteed opening to those fights, and is a pretty damn good one at that. Blink into Coil, Blink into Silence on the likes of Ember or Faceless Void, or even the Gyrocopter, who is obviously very easy to kill off, is going to mean that Komanda Minus will have a lot more control over these fights. And, well, so far they've had decent amount of control, but that's mostly because of mYinsanity's poor positioning. They're going to use this Blink Dagger just to, make this bottom lane push a little bit safer. No Ring of Basilius here, which is kind of interesting, but I don't think they really need it when everyone's hitting with plus 31 damage.
I don't think they do, but upgrading to that Ring of Aquila for Insolent would be not only an easy purchase, but a really slot-efficient one as well, and you get an extra 3 agility from nothing, really, and I don't know, it would probably be worthwhile. Either way, they now have Visage Familiars up, and this is where the real damage coming out from this combination starts to show. That extra 31 damage is nice for heroes, but when you can add it to birds that are hitting at pretty much max attack speed, it starts to get ridiculous.
And it's going to be those birds helping to destroy the bottom lane, tier 1. Kikoni's still with the Blink Coil that I'm pretty sure is still hidden to mYinsanity. They're going to look for a tier 2, or they're going to try to clear off this huge ancient stack. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 stacks, and even though mYinsanity don't have any cleave or anything, the fact that they're all range means that they could do this and just pretty much kite the ancients the entire time. They're just kind of stumbling all over each other.
Yeah, and they'll be able to do it pretty quickly on top of it. It is going to be 3 Wraithbands into Yasha. Insolent going to be tagged by the Fire Blast. And now the call down onto 2. Poison trying to get off the Fiend's Grip onto Mitch, and it is going to succeed as they arrow Yes piece on the sidelines. There is a Chronosphere going to kill off the Bane immediately, but on the backlines, the birds are just wreaking havoc. All eyes on me is falling. That's going to be it. Now with the Soul Assumption, that's going to be the last kill in a full 5-man wipe. Komanda minus, they drop low, but only the Bane dies.
So you have 5 range heroes in this circle, and mYinsanity, they still can't kill all of them off. Insolent slipped out of there because of the Moonlight Shadow, and he had his chance to position himself right behind the fight where Witch Doctor was there right next to him. He just wailed on him, and that was also Jar Ranger keeping the marksmanship bonus on herself, so that of course amplified everyone else's damage as well. I mean, mYinsanity, that was a 3-man call down against this type of draft for Komanda minus. Everyone should be dying off of that, but they're just durable enough because of the early game advantage that they had that they're going to survive that, and not only survive that, but turn it around for a 4-1 trade. And now, yes please, over towards bottom. Gonna be dove a little bit by Pure Evil. He will give his life forward, giving an unstoppable streak to the Ogre. Probably not worth it. Now Kikoni is going to be chased out. There's a jump forward from Joey with the bashes. Kikoni going to land a silence, but he will be brought down as well. You know, Komanda minus might be feeling a little bit too comfortable after the way they took the last fight, so they're going to take a not so beneficial trade down on the bottom lane, but still they're going to follow up with an arrow onto All Eyes on Me. Look at the Visage Familiars just tear into the Void, the Ember Spirit. Why do I keep calling him Ember Spirit Void? I don't know, but my god, Komanda minus, they are still on pretty much the right track.
Yeah, those Familiars had no damage charges. That was just the Precision Aura damage and base damage. That's usually we don't see that type of potential coming out from Visage Familiars, even with the Drow Ranger at this point in the game, but they have so much gold on this Drow, and we're about to see that level 11 aura. I thought that this time in the game would happen like at 20 minutes, 25 minutes, where Komanda minus get all of these things all tied together and they have all of their teamfight combination, but it's 15 minutes into the game. They're losing tier 1s left and right, mYinsanity, and just can't find anything inside the teamfights. It's looking grim, and quite honestly, they need Komanda minus to be caught out of position.
Just like they were in the last fight, except a little bit more so. The dream is always there, though, when you're working with Faceless Void, Chronosphere, plus a Witch Doctor, plus a Gyrocopter. You can make these fights happen, even if you are 10,000 gold behind, 10,000 experience behind, like we see in this game, just because of how much damage and how much lockdown that combo offers. So, mYinsanity, they're behind, but they're certainly not out of it. They just need to land a really, really good Chronosphere. And so often games come down to this, but and sometimes they pull together, sometimes they don't. It's going to start with the top lane aggression. Chain's going to land onto Insolent, Pure Evil, both. Missile's going to be set up, but the Familiar is actually not going to do anything about that. Insolent will TP out to safety before anything else. Now Pure Evil all alone, but no one's actually chasing him out, so that could have been pretty nice for mYinsanity, but instead it's going to be a grip onto Joey with Witch Doctor dying solo on the bottom lane. Joey is doomed to fall right now, silenced up and brought down. Don't really know what happened to the Witch Doctor. I assume that was actually not an arrow landing. That was just Mirana's damage.
Yeah, that's really scary. Mirana's not supposed to be able to solo kill people unless the arrow lands. Witch Doctor only with 625 HP. I assume that was just leap into beatdown. Mirana almost hitting for 200 damage a pop. Arrow going to fly. Will scout out the high ground. Now Ember Spirit going to go towards his remnant, but in the meantime, Roshan is being attempted by both Pure Evil and Insolent. With the Familiars and their extra damage, they're taking it pretty darn quickly.
This new health bar from Roshan, I gotta say, I love it. It looks so good, man. It looks like it should be. It's like, this guy's 9,000 HP. His health bar should be huge.
Yeah. I know, it's a little bit bugged for me, so it's like off-center, so I can't fully appreciate it, but yeah, I like the change that they're, I don't know, just approaching these smaller changes inside the UI.
Oh well, it looked fine for me, so I guess you're gonna have to take my word for it that it looked good.
Very well. That's double life now for Insolent, and even if mYinsanity get the perfect teamfight combination, killing this Draw Ranger twice, it's going to be really hard for them. Usually at this point, Draw Ranger is not very tanky, but she has the S and Y, 2 Wraith Bands, Power Treads, and a lot of support behind her. Currently tankier than everybody on the side of mYinsanity, maybe bar the Ogre.
Ogre has a little bit more, but curiously enough, Pure Evil has a little bit more still because he is going for that Aghanim Scepter. He has a point booster and an Ogre Club, so this Visage is very, very big, and this is actually probably the worst time to pause. Ember Spirit, Arrow must have missed already, so I don't think All Eyes on Me is in a lot of trouble, but yeah, we saw how much damage Hawkeye put to the Witch Doctor. This time Ember Spirit has, jumps out with Fire Remnant, but Hawkeye's got to be a little bit careful. Vision for the Radiant, probably not spotting the mYinsanity reinforcement.
Yeah, I think if the arrow misses, Mirana should just turn and leap. Because she doesn't know exactly where they are. She could probably get a little bit of harass onto the Ember Spirit before doing so. I think it's just a little too risky if you don't have any map vision in the area. If you look at the Radiant Vision, it's completely blind. Like, it extends where Mirana's seeing, and that's about it.
Yeah, so definitely Vision is where Command and Minus are probably at their weakest, but they have so much strength in just their raw physical damage that they could probably get away with a little bit of outpositioning. I mean, if they lose a hero here and there, it's not going to be the end of the world because, again, they're 16 kills ahead, so they're kind of okay with making those trades, although they have to be careful so that it doesn't really completely run out on them. The game should be resuming soon, and I expect Hawkeye to just turn around and run away.
Yeah, I think that's fair, especially since he sees the Gyrocopter facing and running towards the jungle, and he might have also caught vision onto ESPs. And if you see those two running for a team fight, oh, there you go, Drum Charge and run away. That was actually Drum Charge on All Eyes on Me. He wants to make a turn. The leap's going to come out from Hawkeye, and now Hawkeye's the one with backup. They're going to Nightmare up the Ember Spirit and just run away.
Oh, he jumped into the water and then it glitched out for me, so the patch is certainly not that stable, but he is going to not get anything anyway. But in the meantime, all of mYinsanity heading up towards their top jungle. Bottom lane is being destroyed very quickly.
Yeah, and that's always the strength of lineups, especially with Draw Ranger and these other elusive heroes that are able to go out on the side of the map. If you find like just 10 seconds of uptime onto a tower, you're able to drop it down below half, if not take it straight up. One of the advantages that mYinsanity have over this lineup coming up from Command and Minus is they're able to kill familiars very easy, but Lizard is just falling so fast, just going to be ripped apart by everybody coming out from them. And Command and Minus, they are down both of their familiars for 10 seconds, and probably don't want to resummon either since he's close to the axe, but now All Eyes on Me. Going to be got stopped, the Illusory Orb, not even necessary, the Waning Rift is plenty of lockdown for him, and that's going to be a kill for Pure Evil.
One sentry ward on the ground, not being too relevant when they disengage right outside of that range for mYinsanity. They lose 3 heroes at the same time over towards mid. I can only assume that was an arrow combination landing, but who knows what happens in this game. They are going to lose 2 towers, it looks like, mYinsanity. And as they lose more and more towers, the chances of that beautiful Chronosphere leading into a full team wipe for mYinsanity, those chances dwindle by quite a bit. And now there's an Aghanim Scepter on Visage pre-20 minutes. This is one of the fastest Aghanim Scepters you're going to see.
Then again, he's not going to be able to utilize the Aghanim Scepter until 22 minutes since he just resummoned. So Pure Evil, just a little bit anxious to get his familiars out in the front lines. He is going to be able to split push fairly aggressively with these two, and it's not the end of the world that he doesn't have the familiars, but when you get an Aghanim Scepter this early, you really want those 3 birds and start solo killing supports.
Yeah, he's going to have that item still to be very tanky at the very least, and if mYinsanity somehow get it into their minds that, hey, this Visage is someone that we should be focusing, they're very quickly going to be punished because of that. He is the tankiest hero in the game, I want to say, especially with Gravekeeper's Cloak. That's kind of cheating, though. It's going to be a bottom lane initiation. Chronosphere is going to land onto Kikoni. Insolent. Pure Evil even walks into it as well. Call down onto Kikoni. He will dodge it, actually, as Nightmare goes onto Joey. Pure Evil still sitting in the middle of everything, taking all the damage from the Death Warrior, but it will be interrupted by Kikoni a little bit too late, however. Puck, Insolent dropping very low, and they all will get cleaned up. Aegis is going to be used by the Jar Ranger. Now Puck back into the air, but the Familiar is still going to town onto the SPs, doing so much damage. Hawkeye going to leap back into this fight. Insolent still at full health. They're going to go for All Eyes on Me, and it looks like with an arrow landing, they will be able to kill off the Ember. Now onto Lizard. mYinsanity, that's the best fight that they could have possibly asked for, yet still they aren't able to take it away. These Familiars, I think, really being the MVPs.
Definitely, and that was only 2 of them. Right now, Komanda Minus, they just have such a net worth advantage. Even though they get a decent chrono, they kill off the Drow Ranger, Visage, and Bane very early on in the fight. They just can't follow up. If they get caught out by silence after the fact, they just run away and die. There's so much chasing power in Komanda Minus. Unless mYinsanity make an instant clean retreat, they're gone.
And I'm not exactly sure on the positioning of Insolent, but I want to say that judging by the damage Komanda Minus were able to put out, that the Drow Ranger was able to keep her precision in check, or keep her marksmanship in check rather. So I'm assuming that that helped quite a bit in their ability to take that fight. Now they're looking to turn things around. Nice 3-man Gus with the Coney jumping in as well. Witch Doctor is going to die instantly. Mitch is also dying to just a Familiar. Insolent will go down to the end as Familiar does get a little bit more space. 4 HP. He's going to survive, but not after another Soul Assumption. No, that's not going to happen. Instead, triple Familiar summon. They're going to go for All Eyes on Me. He is going to jump out of there once, but I don't know if he could jump out of there again. He will try. It won't happen. Not enough mana for that. Still Komanda Minus, they're just chilling in the mYinsanity base. They're going to bulldoze down the range Raxes. And mYinsanity, they don't have a Chronosphere for another 20 seconds. All Eyes on Me is going to want to think that he could go for this one. He will dodge a coil and an arrow, but you can't dodge a grip. And he will go down without buyback. GG is called.
Yeah, and there's not really a way to blame them. They will probably kill a Hawkeye. No, not even going to get that. The Yule Scepter is going to stop all action onto them. There's your Ancient exploding. That was a really clean game coming out from Komanda Minus, just showing their cards very early on in the draft, and it, for the most part, went unpunished. They're able to get ahead and stay ahead, kind of like we talked about during the drafting phase, and it's a well-executed draw lineup.
All right, so mYinsanity, this is a best of 3, so they have one chance to bring this to a game 3, and they're going to have to really pick it up, as they had an okay start, but certainly got out of hand very quickly, guys. We're going to be right back for game number 2 in just a little bit, so don't go anywhere.